Well, welcome back to Mr. Obsolete's Vintage Homesteading. Today we're going to cover a number of topics. I'm going to start out with one of the weirdest saws I've ever had. This is our Stihl 034 Mr. Cheesey. And I coined a new word for it. Well, my new made up name for it is Weirdball. And what does that mean? Well, it means it's a weird saw. It's got a lot of weird features, and it's an oddball. Well, this saw doesn't fit into any particular category 100%. It's kind of a combination of them. So anyway, why I'm going to call it a weird ball is some of the weird features. It was sold as a professional grade saw, but it has a lot of retrograde pieces on it. The chassis on it is very cheaply made. It's like a cheap homeowner saw. Okay, one of the weird features on it is the starter, and I'm going to put some links into some of our older videos so you can go back and see what I'm talking about. But just briefly, this saw has a 10.5 to 1 compression ratio. It's really hard to pull through at times. And the starter, it only had one little pawl in it, and it's made out of a cheap plastic. Now the later ones, they upgraded them to 2, and I did an upgrade on this one, but you have to buy another part, another pawl. But the other thing too that's really weird about it, these little cheap plastic pawls, paid like $8.15 a piece for them. It's probably cost about 10 cents to make it and should sell for 50 cents. Well, another shortcoming on this saw, being a so-called pro saw, is the clutch bearing. It's the smallest bearing I've ever seen, even on the little 25 or 30 cc saws that I have. It's really puny. And so the thing that, if you find one of these and it says it needs a clutch, take it apart before you buy it, because the bearing runs right on the crankshaft. And if that bearing is too bad, it mess up the crank. So anyway, the other thing too is it should have a purge valve for the carburetor. Like I say, it's very hard starting, especially when the weather's cold. And so, no decompression valve. So those are the drawbacks to it. It does have some really good features though, which we'll talk about. So we're going to talk about the failures for a homeowner farm saw. A lot of them relate to the same thing. No decomp valve and no purge valve for the fuel system. And the other thing that is a weak point both in the pro and the farm saw on this is it doesn't have any torque. And even though I did a muffler mod on it, didn't improve it really. But it's a high RPM saw and a high chain speed. But if you get in a tough cut, it slows down, the RPM drops off, and then the chain stalls very easily. So when you're cutting, you have to monitor. You hear the RPM dropping off, you have to lift it up. So it's a kind of annoying feature. But anyway, I'll talk about some of the good features of it though. One of them, it's one of the easiest saws to work on I've ever done any work on. It's light, has good ergonomics, and in cutting in light, small diameter wood, firewood and stuff like that, it's a real performer. But you get in the heavier stuff and it's a no-go. So anyway, I'm going to talk about the saws that we use and why this one doesn't fit into any category, either pro or homeowner farm saw, because it doesn't have the features that it needs for both of them. So be right back. Well, we're going to start with the first category. Like I say, we'll have 3 different ones, but number 1 here is small saws. And so there's 2 versions of them. We have a rear handle and a top handle. So the rear handle one is very common. Use that for small firewood, small branches, making kindling, stuff like that, brushing, and a lot of the same for these. But this one is light enough you can pick it up with one hand. This one's a lot heavier. And the thing that this has over this one is you can use it in the tree, cutting branches and whatnot. So with a saw like this and you're up in there cutting, you're on a ladder or in the tree, you gotta have both hands on the saw. With this one you can be cutting the branch and holding on to something like another branch. So that's why you need one of each. And this one has a little bit longer bar, not much, but you know, something like this with a 16 to 18 inch bar is really ideal for home use, farm use, for small work. So we'll go on to the next ones. Okay, well, there's a second category. Now the first small ones are usually in the 30 to 50 cc class. So this is a mid-size, we'll say like from 51 to 60 cc. These are the most common sizes that most people use on the home and farm. So the McCulloch here is a 60 cc and the Homelite is a 58 cc. And these, I call them a universal saw because there's virtually everything that you need for cutting you can do with these. It's not good for in-tree work, although I have used them for that, but I highly don't recommend it. My little mini Mac there, it was about 8 or 9 years after I got my first saw, one of these, before I had something for doing in-tree work, so I used to use one of these up in the trees, but don't you do it. So anyway, the thing that's nice about a mid-size saw, you know, they're not very heavy and have enough horsepower and torque where you can do just about any cutting. These both have 24-inch bars on them. And this one you can run up to a 28-inch bar on it. This one struggles with a 28, but this has a little more horsepower, so that you can do, you know, small firewood if you're using like a sawbuck or, you know, small to medium-sized trees, and you can actually do big trees. It just takes longer because you cut through on one side and go around and cut on the other to get a full cut through the trunk. And like I say, they have enough power and torque to do just about any saw work you need. Okay, well, like I say, these are the saw sizes we use more than any other. Just like I say, a universal saw. Almost any type of work can be done with them. So we'll be back with the next category. Well, the next size up is a big saws. That's generally mid 60 cc and up, 65, 70, 68, you know, 80. This is 89 cc, and we have up to 111 cc still, 075. You've seen in our older videos, so there again we'll put some links. But these are the least used saws we have because we just don't have that many big trees. So its purpose is felling big trees and bucking them into pieces, or in layman's terms, dropping and chopping. So anyway, we'll be back talking about our weirdo saw here briefly. Well, the 034 Weirdball saw here, like I say, it doesn't fit the pro category 100%, nor the homeowner farm saw either. So what was the purpose? And like I say, still sold it as a pro saw, but like I say, it has a lot of shortcomings. So I believe I've found the ideal type of work for it though, and I was hoping to do a little bit of work today, but we've been rained out. But so in the next video or two, weather permitting, we'll get the saw out and we'll put it to work in the ideal conditions for this Weirdball 034. So vintage is always best. We'll see you on the next exciting video.